Well, much colder air is blowing in across Minnesota today. It's making for some wind. Also a few flurries at times along the international border, but a big warm-up is already on the way next week. Plus, we're talking about the latest drought monitor. Drought expands across Minnesota. Well, the big deal today, other than the temperatures, is the latest drought monitor, which shows extreme drought now in Minnesota for the first time this year, at least. 4% of Minnesota now, covering much of the Twin Cities, especially the western Twin Cities, down into south central Minnesota, and then a portion of southwestern Minnesota. Severe drought expands from 4 to 11%, and drought overall now from 22 to 35% of the state. 77% of Minnesota now is considered abnormally dry, up from 54% last week. So a very dry fall so far, coupled with a summer drought that we never got out of in the Twin Cities area has led to this. That bright red is that extreme drought area there. And these are just 30-day rainfall anomalies, but this is really what has changed the picture for Minnesota overall. Dry pretty much all across the state, but especially across southern Minnesota into western Wisconsin, just like we've seen for the last several months, but still at a surplus in northern Minnesota because they had so much precipitation this spring and summer. But we are over 8 inches behind for the year, but 4 inches ahead in St. Cloud, 8 inches behind in Chanhassen, a couple inches in Eau Claire, but then International Falls is a staggering 10 inches ahead for the year still. So the drought very localized and variable this year. Showing you this International Falls observation from 5 a.m. They did report some snow showers, so there have been some flakes in parts of the state, and it's possible, especially after dark again tonight, when things cool off, that we'll see some flurries, no accumulations, but folks in northern Minnesota will probably see some flakes, and cold enough as well that we can actually see the cold on satellite. So one of the many features that we can turn to with satellite imagery is looking at the specific air mass, and you can see the cold really sinking in. So it's windy and cooler already, but the coldest air is still moving in. A very big area of cold high pressure, this air originating from the Northwest Territories in the Canadian Arctic. So this means business. And it's going to give us lots of sun tomorrow, but also bring us some of our coolest readings yet. We're talking widespread 20s and low 30s in northern Minnesota. I think we stay above freezing in the Twin Cities, but it's going to be in the 30s. It's going to be cold tonight into tomorrow morning, and then same thing tomorrow night, maybe even colder in southern Minnesota. Widespread freezing or below temperatures, but again in the Twin Cities we might be very close. So definitely, if you're Minneapolis, St. Paul, you haven't had frost yet, cover up any plants you want to protect the next couple of nights, but we may just eke out barely above it. And then warmth already moves in, a rapid recovery. 60s this weekend, but 70s are back here for Tuesday, it looks like. So a pretty warm, at least day or two next week. Low, maybe middle 70s across southern Minnesota. 60s are back for northern Minnesota. But then we are talking about some more chilly air late next week. It's just that time of year. This is October, back and forth. Overall, cold air is expanding, of course, near the North Pole. So this is the latest lobe of cold moving through, short-lived. Warmth moves in already for Sunday, Monday, Tuesday next week. But then watch this next lobe of cold air descend in here by late next Thursday and Friday. So we'll be seeing yet another drop in temperatures. Our high today is already behind us, probably. We're going to be pretty steady, I think, most of the day in the low 50s as that north wind blows in colder air. But once the sun goes down, the temperature's going to drop pretty quick into the 40s, through the 40s, into the 30s the next couple of mornings. Near 50 only for a high tomorrow. We might have a sprinkle, some clouds early in the day. And again, that might keep the temperature up too. But then we'll clear out, bright conditions settling in for the next couple of days after that. Slightest chance of a sprinkle, but we're in a drought. Rain is hard to come by, but warming up quickly. That's what you'll notice. That cold start Saturday, but then up to 60 in the afternoon, and then one brief, fairly warm day again next week.